Hello and welcome to the Mobile Youth Show. You're listening to Graham Brown. As ever, I'm joined by our research manager, Freddie Benjamin. Freddie, how are you doing?
Doing well, Graham. How you doing?
Doing great. So, one of the myths that seems to persist in the youth mobile space is the one that young people don't have money to spend on mobile. And we were just talking about this the other day, and Freddie referred me to this story, which was in the San Francisco Chronicle, which I guess challenges that myth. I mean, one of the many stories that challenges that myth, but I thought it was a very interesting angle. And it's a story about New York teens paying valets to store their cell phones while at school. Freddie, what's going on here?
Thank you, Graham. The story you just introduced is a really great story. It's New York students are paying $1 a day per device to store it in these trucks, which are basically run by small entrepreneurs. And
Hmm,
one of the students admitted that it was kind of expensive, $1 a day for a device because they usually carry a mobile phone and a tablet now. And not many could afford it, but they find a way to do it. Now, one way to look at it is, from the very technology perspective and say that how much teens are addicted to their mobiles. Actually, one of the
hmm,
principals, when she found out about this, she said, she found this whole practice strange. She had never heard about it and attributed, young people storing the device and paying $1
right.
for it to their love of the mobile phone. But when we look at it from a, anthropological point of view, we need to look at it at how this affects the social lives of young people. Now, two
Hmm,
things really emerge here. And one is that young people are social beings. They always look for ways to connect with their friends, with their family, and mobile helps them do that. So right after school, they want to check their mobile to see if they have messages from their parents or from friends in the neighborhood who don't attend the same school. They might have made plans with their school friends after school, so they want to keep on top of those plans
hmm.
and really bust the myth that young people do not pay money for mobile services. If there's a service that fulfills a need, they are willing to pay uh, for that
Right. So
service.
let's look at that because they're paying in some cases $200 a year,
Exactly.
which is a lot of money because that's probably up there with what they're spending on the cell phone itself, right?
Exactly. On average, a teenager in the U.S. spends $20 to $30 on their mobile phone. That is including their monthly bill plus, any downloads of music or anything else.
Hmm. So they're probably spending as much again just to store their phone for the duration of their studies, right? Which is a significant cost. It shows that there is a significant headroom really in terms of their spending and what else they could spend on. So they have that money to spend. It's just a case of maybe finding out what really pushes their buttons in terms of social utility rather than extra mobile apps, maybe something that has some real value in the real world in terms of
Exactly.
their mobile usage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the service provides a social benefit to young people, they are willing to pay for it. They're willing to find ways to find the money to pay for it. And one of the things that's emerging from, these gathering, from, I guess, like these trucks that are storing mobile phones is that the collection points are being used as a social space. Now, we talked
Mm,
about the lack of social space in urban areas, and this is New York City, where there is a lack of social space for young teenagers, except their homes. So, this collection point is evolving into a place for teenagers to congregate under the pretext of collecting their phones while they
mm.
make plans, they flirt with each other, or they just share kind of stories from the day they just spent in school. And it's really just a place for teenagers to hang out.
Mm. It's probably back in the day, young teenagers would be hanging out smoking cigarettes. There would be a place where they would do that. And, being a smoker would be partially on the outside, maybe some sort
Exactly.
of, social exclusion. And there is this sort of theme here emerging with the mobile phone as well, because they're not allowed to use the mobile phone
Yep,
in the school.
exactly.
So they're having to go somewhere and create this social space as well. So there's that sense of community from the actual, act of being on the outside.
True, I completely agree. I mean, it's a I think it's a great way to get young teenagers into any social space. Now, there's a I think big opportunity here for a lot of mobile brands, to create a front line with young people. They
Mm.
necessarily don't have to run a retail store. They just need to run a place or one of these like mobile storage units outside their schools, possibly provide refreshments, and get the teens to
Mm.
hang out. And over the time, if this is a Nokia or Motorola running this storage unit, they could build relationships with these students, win over fans, generate earned
Mm.
media, and eventually, affect their revenues and margins. I mean, it's a long-term strategy, but we talk about, like really how can brands connect with youth? Well, this is a way they can.
Right. And it would be a great opportunity to introduce new handsets, new products to these potential customers as well. They may not be using your Samsung phone, but they may be interested in your latest Samsung phone because, they're going there thinking about their phones, they're talking about their phones, they're sort of hanging out with their friends. So it's a great opportunity to introduce new ideas.
Exactly. Yeah. This reading the story kind of reminded me of a jazz music festival I attended last summer in Bangalore in India. Now, there were many vendors who came there and set up tents and stalls during the music fest because it was summer, and most of them just tried to sell their products, get people to sign up
Mm.
for something. But there was a local ISP who decided to provide, cold drinking water for a fee, and people flocked to that tent. You know, they
Mm.
they just that was the only place that providing cold drinking water. And being that they were an ISP, they set up wireless internet connection in the tent, so people then started using that wireless connection and seeing how fast it was. So it was really, like you want to get the people, and you have to create a better social context for them to, I guess, come together. They won't come together just to buy your product. And coming to retrieve your cell phones that have been stored because the law doesn't allow you to take it inside school is a really strong social context.
Excellent. So you've been listening to the Mobile Youth Show with Graham Brown and Freddie Benjamin talking about teens in New York taking on valets to store their cell phones outside of school. I think it's a great example of how brands need to use anthropology and ethnography to get a better handle on what actually happens in the day-to-day lives of youth and how technology fits into that. So thanks a lot for listening. If you want to find out more, go to www.mobileyouth.org.